Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Man, what's been going on this last week?
Man, it has been a crazy week, and college football wrapping up and all that. Actually, have go figure a college basketball game up on the TV right now. Number 11, Kansas State's got a 1-point lead right now, and their matchup there against I forget who they're playing now. Oklahoma State, 56-55, but. Man, we're rolling from one sport right into another. That's what the best part is.
Absolutely. College football is done. The NFL is hitting their playoffs this weekend. We'll talk all about that. Got a couple of LCSC women's basketball players on tap for 7 p.m. And if we have a moment, we can talk about Carlos Correa being attached to a third team this offseason. 3 down, 27 to go. That's the way I look at it. But before we get going, I have to say happy birthday to my mom. So happy birthday to her before we get things underway. And also a show note. Again, I've said many times that I'm proud that we have done really good about being on here Tuesday, 6 p.m., whether one of us can't make it or not. Unfortunately, and actually it's somehow lucky that it's the first time it's happened this year, but both Clarkston and Lewiston have home games. No problem, Mom. Both Clarkston and Lewiston have home games next Tuesday. Obviously, Robert is the PA guy for Clarkston. I am the radio guy for Lewiston when they're at home. So we're both going to be busy next Tuesday. So we are going to go live Monday next week at 5 p.m. And we'll kind of do a live reaction to the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers while doing our normal show as well. And probably get through about the first half of that game probably before we get off the air. Maybe start of the third quarter before we leave. But we'll have some fun doing that. And then the week after that, we got to start getting these guests lined up, sir. We got Golden Throne. You got the Golden Throne shirt on right now. You're getting yourselves all ready to go. The January 24th episode is going to be very Golden Throne heavy. I know the Clarkston coaches, if we can get a hold of them, or ADs, we might have to pre-record some stuff because I know Clarkston's out of town that week. Yeah. Or on that Tuesday, but we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we got 3 games that week. We've got Shadle Park at home on the road Tuesday, and then we've got Golden Throne on Friday, and I believe it is either West Valley or East Valley in I don't have my schedule right in front. With that being said, quick update. The girls are on the court right now. West Valley right now. 2:19 left to go in the second quarter. Clarkston leads West Valley 34-16.
There you go. We'll get into more of the local high school stuff about the bottom of the second hour. A lot has gone on over the last week as we are very knee-deep into league play. But let's get into the NFL. It was the final week of the regular season, so we'll do things a little different. We don't need to break down all the games because we're looking forward now, right? Getting ready for the 14 teams that have made the playoffs. We'll talk about the NFL decision and what they did going into Week 18 with the whole Damar Hamlin situation, and they ended up obviously canceling the Buffalo-Cincinnati game and all the weird scenarios they came out with. And obviously it looked confusing at first, but now it is pretty clear how things will work. But let's look back just for a moment.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of people complain that Sunday Night Football, it should not have been Detroit and Green Bay because Detroit might be eliminated and they'll have nothing to play for. And it's going to just give Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers a free trip to the playoffs. All the Seahawks fans were crying and moaning. And no. Anybody that really thought that Dan Campbell was going to let his team lay down to a division rival after getting eliminated just does not watch the NFL. Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions go out there and eliminate the Green Bay Packers, and all those Seahawks fans are all of a sudden yelling Super Bowl again.
When aren't they yelling Super Bowl? That's my big thing. Unbelievable what motivation that Dan Campbell has on these guys to go out there and play. Jared Goff having another great game. Mr. Williams, running back. Just Detroit hit their stride. Unfortunately, they found themselves a little too late in the season because that was that team that I was like, I don't know if I want to face this team into the playoffs.
Yeah, that loss to Carolina week 16 obviously was the dagger in their season. They played absolutely phenomenal from there. What was it? They won 8 of their last 10. Their only other loss going against Buffalo, and that's nothing to sneeze at. But they beat Green Bay twice. They beat the Giants. They beat Jacksonville. They beat Minnesota. They're beating playoff teams on this run. It wasn't just easy victories that the Lions were getting, and that showed on Sunday Night Football. Wasn't the prettiest game. A lot of field goals going on there in the first half. We didn't get our first touchdown to the third quarter, but Jamal Williams goes out there and breaks Barry Sanders' single season record for touchdowns in a season as he gets 2 of them in this game, and the Detroit Lions take out the Green Bay Packers. And I just got to ask you, is that the last time that we see Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay uniform?
You and I talked a little bit about this at bowling, and I think he is leaving, but you listen to the way he talked in his press conference. It's got to come from both sides. So I mean, at least he's making it look like he wants to make things work. I don't think we're going to see him and Randall Cobb together anymore. He got very comfortable with Watson. Watson came out and a great second half of the season and became one of Rodgers' favorite targets to shoot at. So it'll be interesting over the next about month and a half, what kind of talks we hear. It's like he said, he wants to go through it, but before things start dialing up in May and teams start looking at where they're going to go based off of their draft order list.
If he is not a Green Bay Packer, is it because he retired? Because they traded him? What would be the reason why he would not be with the Packers next year?
I think for me, I would think he would test the waters. I think
he can't test the waters, not a free agent.
Yeah, but I'm saying trade out. And this was the same conversation you and I had the other day. I think he wants out, but it could be a lot of different things. I mean, why wouldn't you try someplace new?
Because he is owed $60 million. 60.
60. Yeah.
There's not many teams that can afford an aging quarterback who really declined a lot this year. He was my number one quarterback coming into this year. And Robert Taylor made fun of me a lot, and rightfully so, the way Rodgers came out and played this year. So I don't know what teams really want to go out there and spend that kind of money. And it's not like the Packers could just cut him because the dead money. Do you know how much dead money Green Bay would take if they cut Aaron Rodgers?
I do not.
$99 million to their cap would be dead. That would just give up on the season next year if they do that. So it's either he's retiring or he's a Packer next year. And unless they could come out with some sort of a way to make a trade, and that even creates dead money for the Packers. I don't think it's $99 million, but it's a lot.
39 years old, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. I mean, he could easily, if he has a say in where the teams are drafting and what his team drafts.
When has he ever had that?
Yeah, but I mean, with everything with the holdout last year and all of the whole stuff that he did, maybe he wants to try to get his foot in there a little bit more and saying, here we go, this is what we're doing. So it will be very interesting to see what they do.
You can just say it instead of typing this.
I didn't know if you were going on there. For me in this game, and I got to watch a little bit, replay after we got done bowling and all that. With how Detroit played the rest of their season, is Dan Campbell number 1 or number 2 on the head coach of the year?
Probably second. what the Giants have been able to do and what Brian Daboll has been able to do, I think puts him right up there. Sirianni with Philadelphia. Obviously, their record doesn't look as fantastic as they lose the 2 games that Hurts misses, but he has really turned that team around. So, yeah, Dan Campbell's probably second or third. I don't think he ends up winning Coach of the Year this year just because they missed the playoffs. But he's a great coach, and Detroit might be a team to look out for next year for sure.
I think they're going to be quite dangerous. And, we're talking about the Detroit Lions again. Right. We haven't talked about the Detroit Lions ever hardly on the show. But, I mean, is this the life that they're bringing since Barry Sanders left? Could you say that?
This is even better than the Barry Sanders left because Barry Sanders was the only thing bringing life to that team. Same with Calvin Johnson when he played. It wasn't, hey, we're good and we have Barry Sanders. It's, we have Barry Sanders. It's like, oh, we made the playoffs barely as the 6th seed, but they were never a fantastic team. They were just Barry Sanders and the rest of the junk. Let's look at the rest of the NFC and start previewing the playoffs. The Eagles did earn that number 1 seed by beating the Giants 22-16. The Giants really didn't play anybody in that game, and the Eagles really took their foot off the gas there late. The Giants score with, about a minute to go, needing the onside kick, don't get it, and the Eagles, while it only is a 6-point victory, they won that pretty handily. Commanders beat Dallas 26-6, which allows all of the Dallas haters like you and I to make fun of the Cowboys for losing that final week. But let's be honest. I know the Cowboys were looking at the scoreboard and they knew the Giants weren't playing anybody. And they knew the Eagles had jumped out early. So while they didn't start benching everybody right off the bat, Dallas knew that a win was going to mean absolutely nothing and just kind of took it easy. And I'm going to take nothing from this loss to Washington.
No, and you're 100%. They were playing from the spot of Philly has got it in hand. Let's just know what we got to do, keep our guys healthy, ready to play, and go out. Because, the Giants made a statement, I think, in the week prior, just because them making the playoffs. Brian Daboll, what he did with that team to get them in there is just phenomenal. To get Daniel Jones to do something. So I really think that Dallas, after they saw that, it was, Giants are getting ready for the playoffs and not, going to play anybody. So
that's the perk of being locked in at your seed going into the final week. But so the Eagles are the 1 seed, Cowboys are the 5 seed, Giants are the 6 seed. We'll get into their matchups here in a little bit. But my question to you now, will any of those 3 teams from the NFC East make it to the NFC Championship game?
Honestly, I think there is a very strong possibility that Philadelphia can get there. But it all is going to boil down to, can the offensive line stay healthy in Philadelphia, and can they keep Jalen Hurts upright and not get pressure? I don't think Dallas is going to get through. We'll talk about picks here in a little bit. I'm still back and forth. I know I typed in one here a few minutes ago for the wild card weekend. I'm not set on that that pick.
Yeah, I think the Eagles, obviously, with having the bye, have the best chance. They also, with that bye, get to avoid the 49ers in the second round. There's no chance of them playing them or the Vikings if they had both advanced. So you're looking at Tampa Bay, Dallas, Giants, Seattle as their second round opponent. I think they could beat any of those. The ones that might give them the biggest trouble are the 2 division opponents with the Giants and the Cowboys, and therefore one of the NFC East teams would make it to the conference championship game. Tampa Bay could be interesting. Just again, it's Tom Brady in the playoffs, but that offense still has not impressed me throughout this entire year. So yeah, I do think Philadelphia will probably make it to the NFC Championship game, and that's probably as far as I'm going to have them go. And I'm not sold on Dallas or the Giants yet.
Who would have figured? And this is a throw out comment to you. That we have 3 NFC East teams this year in the playoffs to 1 from last year.
Or well, I guess we ended up with 2 AFC West teams. We were talking about all 4 AFC West teams making it, and just what we see in the NFC South. That's what we thought we were going to see in the NFC East, and it just wasn't the case. San Francisco obliterated Arizona 38-13. Seattle really struggled with the Rams. Baker Mayfield had several chances to stick it to the Seahawks, who I kept saying that Baker Mayfield is going to be a Seahawk. It was not the case, and Seattle does sneak in, winning 19-16. They doink off their first chance to win it, and then they do win it in overtime. That gives us the 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks in a divisional matchup here in the super wild card round. Does Seattle have, we'll get the predictions in a second, but we might spoil it. Does Seattle have any chance at all at beating the 49ers?
I really don't think so. You've got Christian McCaffrey down at Levi Stadium running all over people. Kenneth Walker has been so inconsistent over the last little bit. Yeah, he had a great game the other day. I really think it's going to be San Francisco, and we'll talk about predictions a little bit. But you know, that's an easy one there. Not quite the way. Go to recap that game. Not quite the way you'd want to see JJ Watt go out, but love to see him get a sack. You know, with that first ballot Hall of Famer, you know, unbelievable character, man of character out of there, Arizona. So hats off to him.
Absolutely. San Francisco's absolutely rolling right now. Their game also basically didn't matter. Could Minnesota catch them? I forget if Minnesota could have caught them. Oh, they could. Yeah. So it did matter. They needed to get that 2 seed. They had to win because Minnesota actually finished with the same record as them. So their game did end up mattering, and they put it out of reach very quickly. I'm just going to say it right now. The case will be brought up again when we get to the AFC side of everything. But is this the worst example for the NFL when it comes to the 7 seed? Why are we expanding the playoffs so we get garbage like the Seattle Seahawks and a Tua-less Miami Dolphins wasting our time in the playoffs?
I think the bigger question, you know, I'm okay with having that many. I know they want to give the advantage out, but I think the bigger question is how much longer do we have to keep dealing with a under 500 team getting to host a playoff game with Tampa Bay?
They win the division. You win the division, you get in, and you host your playoff game.
That's still tough to swallow, but I like it on one hand, but it bit me in the butt a few years ago being the Baltimore fan, and Baltimore had the bye, then goes into Tennessee, or Tennessee comes into Baltimore and just rocks the heck out of us, and you know.
They would have rocked you without the bye week anyways.
I think the big thing is what does it do mentally for some of these teams that have that number 1 seed? And
I don't care about the 1 seed. I'm talking about the 7 seed and how garbage they are. We should never have expanded the playoffs. Six is enough.
Yeah.
I just went back and looked at last year. The 7 seeds last year were the Steelers, who got annihilated by the Chiefs 42-21. And who was the other one? The Eagles? Yeah. The Eagles coming in at 9-8. They got beat up by Tampa Bay 31-15. Oh, by the way, Philadelphia scored the last 15 points of that game. They were down 31-0 at one point. And now we get Seattle getting ready to get rocked by the 49ers. And the Dolphins with a third-string quarterback getting ready to get annihilated by Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The 7th seed is not needed. I don't want it. It can go away. Sure, it adds more teams in there to have a chance to make the playoffs, but I don't want those teams to make the playoffs. They don't deserve it. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Finally, Minnesota did defeat Chicago 29-13. Atlanta beat up on Tampa Bay 30-17, though Tampa Bay, again, barely started anybody at the beginning, and they were all sitting by halftime, if not the second quarter. They weren't playing for anything either. But out of those 2 teams, Minnesota or Tampa Bay, which team is more likely to make the Super Bowl run?
I think I've been on them all year. Give me Minnesota. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, what they're doing up there. Adam Thielen getting hot here in the end. Yes, we are talking about Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to have a great game against, I think, Dallas. He's owned Dallas, but I think they get that through there. But I think Minnesota's got the best chance to pair up against either San Francisco or against Philadelphia.
I don't think Minnesota has any chance against those two. I'm going to say Tampa Bay has the better chance because I'm still not 100% sold on Minnesota. They are so good in close games, and you don't want them to stick around. But their defense, I think, is their issue. It's not Kirk Cousins and he's going to freeze up on prime time and all the normal jokes we have for the Vikings. It's just they have a really bad defense. And it's that offense you talked about that has to get them out of tight situations and make these crazy wins and sneak out with victories like they did against the Giants, who they'll play this week, with that 61-yard field goal to get that win. At some point, you're going to lose these close games.
Mm-hmm.
So will it happen this week? Will it happen the week after? We will see. But I just don't think Minnesota has enough magic left in them to make that run. Tampa Bay, I don't believe in the talent as much, but I mean, they do have a guy that's done it many times before, so we will see. So let's get into our predictions. We'll do the NFC, and then we'll get into the AFC stuff. Congratulations to Robert. He did win the regular season pick'em. And I don't even think I have a chance with us doing all the playoff picks. I'm down by 10. I did everything I could to try to make a run, and all my crazy upsets really didn't do much. You went 11-5. I went 10-6 in our last week. 62% winning percentage for you, 58 for me. So not horrible, but not great either. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Taylor got here just before we started talking about the AFC. So there we go. Let's do our predictions for the NFC, and Robert Taylor and Dwayne or my mom can all make their predictions along with us, or whoever else is listening right now. Start off Saturday afternoon. Seattle at San Francisco, who's a 10-point favorite. 49ers win easy.
Yeah, it's going to be no doubt about that one. It's San Francisco, and what is Purdy going to do to Seattle? That's the big question. What has he got up his sleeve against this one? But look for a strong dose of Mr. McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah. San Francisco rolls. Sunday afternoon, Giants at Minnesota. Minnesota is a 3-point favorite. So even those primetime Kirk Cousins jokes do not work here. Afternoon Kurt on a normal Sunday. I know the Giants are a very popular pick here. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say the Vikings win.
Yeah, I like Minnesota. Not taking nothing away from what Brian Daboll has done for that team. I said it a little bit ago, what he has helped for the confidence of Daniel Jones. Can Saquon Barkley get it going? I don't think it's enough to get going against Minnesota, though.
Yeah, and Robert Taylor does take the Giants. I'm not fully against it. I think it's one of the more interesting matchups, and we'll get to the rest of them here soon. And then on Monday night, again, for those that are just joining, we will be live Monday from 5 to 7 next week because we both have basketball games we have to cover. So we'll be live during this game. But the Dallas Cowboys are actually a 3-point favorite on the road at Tampa Bay this one Monday night on ESPN. Who you got?
Listen, I'm still, from what I have typed on there, I'm still back and forth on it. I know I got to cinch it in with a pick.
Cinch it. Lock it in.
Tom has a great record.
Answer my question! The question, jerk!
The question, lock it in. Give me Dallas, even though Tom Brady has owned the Dallas Cowboys over the last few years. I'm going to take Dallas just because of a little bit of youth. Look for the two-headed monster between Pollard and Zeke.
What are the 3 certainties in life?
Death, taxes,
and Dallas loses in the wild card round. Tampa Bay wins. Tampa Bay defeats Dallas, not because Tampa Bay's good. This is what the Cowboys do. This is the Cowboys way.
I really want to see Leighton Vander Esch get a good push into the end, but
Well, yeah, for a
just because
different
he's a
team,
local,
he has
but
to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the AFC side of things. We have one pick difference so far through the 6. It's not looking good for me in my 10-game deficit, but we'll see. Kansas City dominated Las Vegas 31-13. They were even doing circles in their huddles and goofing around. I do wish they wouldn't have called holding, even if there was holding in that play. Just let it happen, just for the memes at that point. Buffalo does take out New England 35-23. Couple of great kickoff returns, including the opening kickoff, which was absolutely awesome. And Damar Hamlin's tweet during that was absolutely fantastic as well. Perfect time for Robert Taylor to get here so I can ask you this question. Did the NFL do right by everyone with their decisions after the Hamlin injury?
For me, I'll answer. I know Robert's going to take a second to type. I think that was awesome. I mean, I know it's a lot of book work, but what they did for that organization and what they did, I mean, it was awesome. So,
but as far as the way they did their seedings and playoff scenarios and neutral sites
and the coin flip,
the coin flip was never. Stop it.
Don't
you know
start.
What? Actually, no, I want to bring this up because Cincinnati got so butthurt about this coin flip thing. Baltimore should have been pissed off about the coin flip thing. You know why? It pissed off Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. All it did was that you had people flipping imaginary coins in the end zones and stuff. There was zero chance with no Lamar Jackson that Baltimore was going to beat Cincinnati. The coin flip was just thrown in there just in case, the sky started falling or some crap. Because people need to calm down about the coin flip. But I will say this. I think the NFL did the best they possibly could with this situation. We had talked about it last week that I was hoping that next week we would get just Buffalo and Cincinnati, let them have center stage, and then push everything back a week. We could eliminate the Pro Bowl flag football game or push it till after the Super Bowl, whatever you needed to do with that crap. But that would have been nice. But as the NFL said, and I do understand it, that would have affected all 14 playoff teams. Mm-hmm. The way they did things is it only affected up to 4. It only affected Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Baltimore if certain things happened in Week 18. In the end, it only affects 2, Kansas City and Buffalo, as if they meet up in the AFC Championship game, that will be played at a neutral site. I think, to me, that's the best case scenario because both teams really do have a claim for that spot. Kansas City has the best winning percentage. So by that rule, yes, they should be the number 1 seed. I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm not saying they robbed the number 1 seed. I also disagree with Robert Taylor saying they earned it. They didn't earn it. They were handed that top seed because Buffalo beat them. They had the track to the number 1 seed, right? They owned that number 1 seed and never lost it. And in the end, they will end up being the 2 seed. So I think it is fair that if those 2 teams end up meeting, Kansas City gets the bye, they get that right as the number 1 seed. But Buffalo now can go play them, and we can put it in a really cool site. I don't know where they're going to end up doing it. Atlanta, Tennessee, I don't care. Just let's go send them to London. It's like we're so sorry that we sent you so many garbage games this year. We will give you this one. And here's like Robert's like, oh, they were the 1 seed because the game hadn't even started yet. And it's all this crap. It's like Chiefs fans will come up with their own excuses. Buffalo will come up with their own excuses. The NFL did everything they possibly could to keep it as fair as possible. And there's no perfect answer to it. So in the end, I think they did the best they could. And let's just be honest. I don't think it's going to happen anyways. So all of this arguing is going to be for naught because I don't think we're going to get Kansas City Buffalo in the AFC Championship game.
It'll be interesting to see because I think it's going to come down to what happens after wild card weekend here. So
I think it matters in the second round. I think the wild card is mostly set. And then the divisional round will be really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Cincinnati took care of Baltimore 27-16. Without giving away your prediction, was that a preview of what we're going to see this week?
I didn't get to watch any of the game, so I can't answer any of that. No Lamar, a couple of other injuries not out there. Gus Edwards gets hit. He does not finish the game. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase all day long, and it's got to be Lamar running up and down the field.
So you think Lamar is going to play?
I really think he's been held out long enough to get to this point to get it to the playoffs.
I think Lamar has been holding himself out because he doesn't want to play there anymore.
Doubt.
I think Lamar wants out so bad, so he is saying, "I'm not 100%. I'm not healthy yet. I don't want to play. I don't want to push it."
Yeah, I don't see that.
And this is what happens when you do not pay your quarterback. If they would have just paid him in this last offseason, he would be out there. But he wants to make sure that he doesn't go out there not 100%. And he doesn't want to risk getting injured in this playoff game and then costing him all this money that Baltimore's been holding out on. Because he goes out there and plays this wild card game and he gets injured, nobody pays him. Just look what's going on with Carlos Correa right now. He's been told he's going to get millions of dollars from 3 different teams. And then they look at his bad knee and they go, well, we don't want to pay you that much. And then he has to shop somewhere else. Baltimore won't franchise tag him if he tears up his knee. So he's not going to get all that money. Nobody else is going to give him straight guaranteed money because they're going to go, well, look what happened to RG3. So I don't think Lamar plays. And I think it's a smart business decision for him. And this is what you get for not paying your stars. And Baltimore deserves it.
It'll be interesting. There has not been anything that has come out over the last couple days. Kind of shocked with a couple of cuts they made going into that one, with Boyle and that Deshaun Jackson, not too surprised with Deshaun, but to bring up the other quarterback to play, kind of weird. Are you holding on to Huntley for, like you said, wild card? So
you have to. Jacksonville defeated Tennessee 20-16 in a really good game on Saturday night. I was surprised how close that was. Tennessee led for a lot of it. Again, not a lot of scoring in it, but I thought it was a very tightly contested ball game, and you got to give Tennessee credit for sticking in there. And Denver defeats the Chargers 31-28. I would normally say at this point that the Chargers rested everybody because of what happened at the beginning, the morning games. The Chargers were locked in as the 5 seed, had nothing to play for. So normally I would go on here and say Denver defeated the Chargers because the Chargers sat everybody, but they didn't. The Chargers played full bore until like the 4th quarter, and I don't understand why. And now, who is it? Mike Williams might be hurt because of this situation. He was helped to the locker room. I don't know what the Chargers were doing at all. However, I will ask the question. Is the Chargers-Jaguars game we get this wild card weekend the most interesting super wild card game we have?
If you're a betting man, yes. I mean, the closest game to even money. So also on the over-under too. So it's going to come down to that one. But I'm very shocked with what Stanley did for playing the guys he did. Mike Williams could be out for a couple weeks, if not the playoffs. Looking at the way he was walking off the field, getting on a cart, getting carted to the thing, and then helped onto the bus. This has got to be a lot more serious. I haven't had a chance today to look at the injury stuff, but nothing has come out, saying that he is hurt and not playing. So just a bad coaching decision on his part for being a rookie coach.
He's not a rookie coach. He was there last year when he was doing all the stupid 4th down and everything stuff.
Second-year coach.
He's just gambled in a different way, and I don't agree with it. And hopefully it does not cost them, but it might. It absolutely might. And the last AFC game we'll talk about, the Miami Dolphins end up making the playoffs because they beat the New York Jets 11-6. 11-6, which is sadly not a scoregami, which I was really hoping it was. It's happened one other time, which is disappointing. But I'm going to bring it up again because I am so passionate about it. Expanding the playoffs was the dumbest idea the NFL ever did.
I don't know. I like the extra, but I've seen it both ways. Like I said earlier, it affected Baltimore a couple years ago, and
it's only been 2 years. This is only the second year we have it, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago. No, we didn't get it. We weren't the number 1 seed last year. We were the year before. But it's getting, it's keeping fans involved, giving those guys rest time. I don't know. This game is growing, and I hate saying this because are they planning to do more teams, expand more like we've talked about?
Probably.
And is this their prep to expanding these teams? Because we've talked and we've heard they want to put a team in Germany. They want to put a team in Mexico City. They want to expand the league, but then how much more of a headache does that become scheduling wise? Is it a prepping thing that I don't think it's the owners. I think it's more NFL trying to get the company trying to get more money out.
Hate it. I just hate it. And they did expand it. It was 2020 where they had the 7 teams in there. And I don't know how the Colts and Bears did, but I don't care either. Just hate it. Absolutely hate it. And we don't need more. We don't need a possibility where the Jets would have made the playoffs with how they played that last month or so. Can I just go on a little mini Jets rant?
Sure, really quick. I'm looking up the wild card thing from that time.
From 2020?
Yeah, so the Colts lost to the Bills 27-24.
At least they made it close.
Yeah, and the Bears lost 21-9.
So the 7th seed has never won a game, and they won't. Just adding to my point. But back to the Jets. You know how many touchdowns they scored in the last month? Offensive touchdowns in the last month of the season. A whole month.
I think you texted me about this, didn't you?
Yeah. Do you remember? 0 touchdowns offensively from the New York Jets. Zach Wilson is horrible, but he was not the issue. You know why? Because they tried Streveler. They tried Mike White. They tried stupid goddamn Joe Flacco the last week. None of those assholes could score a touchdown. It was disappointing and ugly, and I miss Breece Hall.
And that's exactly my comment to you. That's the biggest thing that I think that really affected your team is having Breece Hall go out because he showed a little bit of balance with what they were doing.
That defense was so good. I'm still excited for next year. Hopefully they get a better quarterback. I'm still predicting Derek Carr.
Here comes Aaron Rodgers.
No, we do not have $60 million for him. It's not happening.
It puts him in a bigger market.
I don't care. He doesn't care. He wants to go be the Jeopardy host. Done. All right, let's get into it. Let's get to our AFC predictions. We only had one different in the 3 NFC games.
Did you type? I think you typed one wrong. I'm just saying.
Oh, I did.
I just making sure.
I had the loser pick stuck in my head, and that's where it's going.
Congratulations, sir! You make it to our playoffs in the loser
first
bowl.
Time ever that's ever happened that I've done well enough. By the way, anybody that is listening right now that doesn't know, Robert does a loser pool, and he's done it for
12 years, 12 years
somewhere
in
there. Where you pick one loser every week. You cannot pick the same team twice, and whoever has the worst record at the end of the year gets a part of the pot. The leader ended up going completely winless, and congratulations to him. There's 5 of us that have one win.
Six of you.
6. Yep. My one win. The Indianapolis Colts beating the Kansas City Chiefs, which is why I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. Thanks, Robert Taylor. It was your team that cost me some extra money. All right, here we go. Saturday nightcap game. The Chargers are a 1-point favorite at Jacksonville. Who do you got?
I'm gonna agree with our buddy Robert Taylor. Give me the Jags, and the reason why they have gotten hot, but Doug Peterson with his playoff experience coaching in this one is going to be the difference in this ball game on Saturday night.
I said the Chargers. I'm going to stick with the Chargers. I do think it would be interesting if the rest of my stuff plays out to have a Chargers Chiefs divisional round game a bit more than it would be seeing Jacksonville and Kansas City. So I'm going to stick with the Chargers, but with what they did last week and with Mike Williams possibly not playing, it's a little iffy. But I will stick with the Chargers pick. Miami at Buffalo, 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Buffalo's a 10.5-point favorite. It could be more. Give me the Bills.
So they have they ruled out Tua for the entire playoffs? That's I don't think so. That's still the question mark. It's still a 10.5-point favorite game for Buffalo. Buffalo at home. Windy winter game. Look for Josh Allen to run all over the place. Give me Buffalo.
Now, he's not been ruled out yet, but I don't expect him to play. And even if he does play, I don't see Miami beating Buffalo right now. And then the final one in the AFC, Sunday Night Football. Wow, you get a bowl.
I'm still pissed off about this. I can't believe they put this game for Sunday night game. So now
Baltimore at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a 6.5-point favorite. Cincinnati's my pick. Baltimore is my loser pick in our tiebreaker deal in Robert's loser pool. So going all in with Cincinnati. And before anybody asks, I already used Miami and I already used Seattle, or I would have used them.
Man, I know it's a 6.5-point favorite. I know it's Joe Burrow. I know
he can't help himself. He
can't
help himself.
I can't. I know it's on the road. We did knock off Cincinnati early in the year at game one between these guys. Give me Baltimore. God, I'm taking Baltimore.
I'm going to gain a game. I need way more than one, but I'm going to gain a game.
I'm taking Baltimore. Baltimore, yeah. Listen, Lamar Jackson's got to be there. He's got to play good. Mark Andrews has got to get the ball in his hands a little bit more, as he did not play last week.
Nope, it's not happening. All right, let's look. Before we continue on, let's look back at how we did in the preseason. We did a bunch of different predictions.
I don't want to look at the NFC. I'm just telling you right now.
Oh man, it's bad. In the AFC, we got 5 of the 7 playoff teams correct, and we both completely screwed up the AFC South. We both thought the Colts and the Titans were going to make the playoffs. Hell, I had the Indianapolis Colts losing in the AFC Championship game. That worked beautifully for me. But we got the rest. We got the Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals, and Chargers. 5 out of 7. It's not fantastic, but with the unknown with the NFL, I'm happy with it. Are you happy with 5 out of 7?
I'm happy with 5 out of 7 on this one. I just really bummed on how Tennessee did not play all that well. You know,
man, we'll get to it in a second. Tennessee could have made us perfect in something else too, but
yeah,
wasn't quite the case. In the NFC, I also went 5 and 7. I missed out on the Rams because who saw that complete implosion coming? And I really thought that Jameis Winston and the Saints would play better. They kept themselves in the hunt a little bit with Andy Dalton because Winston went out early on in the year. But while the defense is still really good, the rest of the offense was just not as good as I thought they were going to be. Michael Thomas continues to be a bust after his couple of great years with Drew Brees. So I missed out on those 2. Got the Bucks, Packers, Eagles, Vikings. Or I did not get the Packers. Why did I mark that? I got 3 wrong. I marked the Packers as in on mine. So I got 4 out of 7 right. But either way, still better than you.
Yeah, I only 3 right. Listen, I think the best one for me, and I not to toot my horn, I had Minnesota, and I had Minnesota up there high, and they do end up being the 3 seed. Philadelphia, I wasn't sure Philadelphia was going to be all the way to the number 1, but having them in there, and who would have figured Tampa Bay would have been just sneaking in with the 7.
Well, 4.
I thought, I want them to be the 7 because they have the worst,
right,
you know.
Right.
I
get it.
But Carolina, I was expecting so much more out of that team with McCaffrey, with Josh, with Baker Mayfield there. Thought it was going to be a good fit. That team just kind of imploded. And then you look at Aaron Rodgers not getting hot quick enough and taking some big losses, especially to your New York Jets.
Yes, the one positive from this year. All right, so those were the playoff teams. We were okay, but not fantastic. How did we do for the teams that sucked last year in deciding that they were going to suck again? We did something during the preseason where we took the top 10 draft picks, where the teams that had earned the top 10 picks before all the trades and stuff messed everything up. And would they also earn a top 10 pick this upcoming year? We sucked at this. We both thought Jacksonville would be there. Jacksonville won the AFC South. We thought Detroit would also be there. They do have a top 10 pick through a trade, so congratulations to them.
But doesn't that count, though?
No, I said before trades. But they almost made the playoffs, and probably the best team that did not make the playoffs. We were right about Houston. That was an easy one. We also thought the Jets and the Giants would be in this situation. The Giants made the playoffs. The Jets got close with how they imploded at the end of the year. They'll have the 13th pick. But we both got that wrong. I got Carolina right. You thought they were going to make the playoffs, so you had said no. We both got Chicago right. We both got Atlanta right, so congratulations to us there. You were right on Denver. I thought they were going to play better, but technically I could get it right because Denver traded their pick away to Seattle, so they do not have a top 10 pick. And we both thought Seattle was going to have a top 5 pick, let alone a top 10 pick. And they do, but it's Denver's pick. So we both got 4 out of the 10 out of those. So we really sucked at who was going to improve and who was not. And that's a word to the wiser than us. The bottom of the barrel teams sometimes can get better. And we can't just say, yes, the bottom 10 are going to be the same. Because we said yes a lot on these 10 teams, and we were wrong a lot. So just a word out there. So Black Monday has come and gone, and it was pretty quiet. Lovie Smith technically got fired on Sunday. He could even make it to Monday, and that is because for whatever reason, the Houston Texans defeated the Indianapolis Colts 32-31 and took themselves out of the number 1 pick. Or as some people on Twitter has said, Lovie Smith was always a bear, will always be a bear. And he made sure Chicago got the number 1 pick.
Did you love the look of the owner from Houston after they won and he walked? He looked very upset with the whole going down. You could see the disgust in his face.
That's the first pick is worth a lot. Now it's going to be interesting with Chicago because they don't need a quarterback. They have Justin Fields. Now they could still go get a quarterback and trade Justin Fields. But I just don't see them doing that. So do they take a non-quarterback with the first pick? Do they trade out of that first pick because there's some decent quarterbacks at the very top of this draft? It'll be interesting. But Cliff Kingsbury also getting fired from Arizona. I don't think anybody was surprised there. He did get an extension through 2027 coming into the year, but this year was just a complete disaster with him and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, what they were doing there, it was unbelievable. I'm going to jump back really quick. I mean, you were talking about Houston and giving up that number 1 pick and everything. And is it something you think he went in knowing about or coaching about just to tell his players, just go 100% all the time?
Yeah, 100%. I guarantee you that owner told Lovie Smith to lose that game. And Lovie Smith had too much pride, and I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Like us as fans, we've said this many times on the show. Us as fans can root against our team. Just like I wanted the Jets to lose out so they would get Trevor Lawrence, and I was bummed that they beat the Rams. But those players and those coaches should never play to lose and get a better draft pick. That is should not be in their DNA. And if it is, I don't want them to be a part of my team. Owners are the same way as fans, where they are thinking long term, and the number one pick is very valuable, far more valuable than getting your third win of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was really pissed, and I think that's why Lovie Smith got fired. Because I guarantee you the owner told him that week, hey, if we lose, we get the first pick. So let's not go out there and go 100%.
Yeah.
Washington got rid of their offensive coordinator, Scott Turner. That offense just was completely off, though. Why they kept going back to Carson Wentz, I don't understand. But
3 years with 3 years with Scott Turner, just couldn't do anything with that team.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ron Rivera just thinks so much differently. So it'll be interesting to see who they come out and they start interviewing and looking to who they get for that OC job.
All right, so we have 5 NFL head coaching jobs open right now: Arizona, Carolina, Denver, Houston, and Indianapolis. If you are a head coach out in the world and you got an offer from all 5 of those teams, I want you to rank what order you would put those teams in as far as what job you would want.
Wow.
I'll start with the easy one. The Houston Texans are 5.
Yeah, 100% 5. I think for me, I think Carolina's got to be 4. I think Denver's 3, and I'm going to go Arizona 2 and Indianapolis 1. I think Indianapolis, has got some youth on that team. I like the chances of where that team can go. So I would say probably Arizona, Indianapolis, Arizona, Denver, Carolina, Houston.
I like the Indianapolis pick. Again, I really like this team coming in. Obviously, the quarterback just absolutely did not work. I'm kind of with Robert with his decision there. I'll add that up when I get to it. But Indianapolis, to me, I think is the job I would most want. I think Carolina is my second choice. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces you get, and obviously not having Christian McCaffrey there kind of makes that team worse. Sam Darnold was showing slight signs of getting better. The run game and going full run team really worked for them. So you can build around that while you start getting other pieces. And there's a decent team for Carolina. So I'd put them 2. I'm not a big fan of the Kyler Murray situation in Arizona. And now you lose J.J. Watt as well. But at the same time, you have pieces you can move around there. I'm with Robert Taylor. Denver has no picks. And you're stuck with Russell Wilson, who, while he got Denver's hopes up that last week by beating the Chargers, that team's a complete disaster. And you have no pieces to move to make them better. And then Houston's just garbage. So I would have Houston as 5. Your top 5 draft picks for the 2023 NFL draft surprisingly does not have the New York Jets, so I won't be going too crazy on mock drafts this year. But the Chicago Bears are first. Houston is the second pick. Arizona is the third. Indianapolis has the 4th pick. And then the Seattle Seahawks will actually pick 5th from their pick they got from the Denver Broncos for the Russell Wilson trade. And again, Browns, Rams, Saints, 49ers, and Dolphins all do not have a pick.
So with that being said, with all those picks, and we look, I'm gonna throw a couple other teams out there. You've got Detroit 6, the Raiders 7, Atlanta 8, Carolina 9, and 10 is Philadelphia. Do you see one of those big guys, one of those teams making a big push to get up to number 1? Just because we talked about Justin Fields a few minutes ago, Chicago doesn't need that guy. It doesn't need a quarterback. Could you see them making that big push and one of even the 6 through 10 teams making it to getting the overall number 1?
I can see Indianapolis make that push. I don't see Seattle going that crazy and trading everything to get up to number one. Arizona, I don't think feels like they need it at all. And then Houston, how much are you going to give up to move up the one spot? I mean, they're not the Chicago Bears and Mitch Trubisky. So, I mean, we'll see there.
Well, Mitch has got a spot still in Pittsburgh.
Oh, man. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into our power rankings real quick. If I can hit the right goddamn buttons. I can never do this right. There we go. All right. My power rankings do not change very much at all going into this week. I do make one change, and Robert Taylor, you can be all happy, but I will drop the Philadelphia Eagles one spot, but Kansas City just ahead of them. I'm still worried about the Chiefs and about getting back into that fourth gear, as they have just been toying around with horrible teams for the last few weeks. Again, just go back and look at the merry-go-round play that they did with the Raiders, and you can tell Kansas City just does not care. And then my other three stay the same: Buffalo, Cincinnati, and I still have San Francisco as my top team. And I think they're the scariest team going into the playoffs. Robert, what about you?
Listen, I realize why you kept us in the same order, because you want me to really hit on my number 5 team.
Yep,
but number 1,
you saw right through me.
Well, I knew it had to be something. Hey, listen, number 1, I'm going to keep Kansas City there. I'm keeping them in the same spot. I'm also keeping San Francisco. I think those two are the best two teams. This could be the Super Bowl matchup that we're looking for and could expect, and nothing wrong there. I do move Buffalo up one spot just because of how Dallas played the other day. I moved Dallas out of my top 5. I'm going to move Philly up one spot. They had a great game. Listen, Jalen Hurts came back. He played well. I know New York did not play all of their guys, but it was nice to see Philadelphia make it. And finally, it took me to week 18, but I finally put them in there.
Finally.
At number 5, I am putting the Cincinnati Bengals in my power ranking. Yes, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrows. I think it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow on Sunday night watching Cincinnati and Baltimore. But I might become a Bengal fan after they win against.
You're going to become a Bengal fan?
Well, for
Chase
the
has
playoffs.
Chase has a lot of Bengals gear that you can wear. It might not fit you.
I might get his shirt over my head, and that
he
might
probably
be
has a hat somewhere that's adjustable. If you need it, he can hook you up.
Oh, no.
All right, and then again, we've been doing the Eliminator every week. This week was the easiest for us because now we know who's in and who's out. But there are your playoff teams, and you know what? For our first year doing this, I thought we did okay. Both of us only missed out on one team, and we were a quarter away from sneaking in and getting that right. That was the Jacksonville Jaguars sneaking in and winning the AFC South over Tennessee. But we have to continue doing this for one more week. So eliminate your final team.
Oh, for me, it was a no-brainer. Sorry,
New York, all no-brainers.
New York Jets.
Yes.
I really like Robert Saleh. I like what your team has done there. I think I had more fun watching you sweat the Washington Commanders for almost
right. They were in there for
4 weeks.
Hey, I got away with it, and then obviously I'm eliminating the Green Bay Packers. So we just missed out with Tennessee and Jacksonville. So it was pretty fun. He has Bengals over Chiefs. Go Robert Taylor. 49ers are still too low, but that's all right. So that'll do it for our NFL Hour. Again, we will be live Monday at 5 p.m. while Tampa Bay and Dallas are playing. So come react with us for that. But now let's get into some local stuff. And we got a couple of guests to come on, as they are part of the LC Warriors team who've been absolutely fantastic. And Robert, why don't you introduce our guests today?
Well, it's great to finally have a friend of the show back and part of these Warriors. Callie Stevens joining us also with Ellie Sander. How are you doing, ladies?
Well, you're doing good.
It's great. First, I'm going to jump into this. I know you guys, we got to see a lot of you guys practices during the Christmas break. You guys came in and saw the Avista tournament. We just wrapped up last week with Avista. Tell us what you thought when you came through the gym a couple of times. I saw you guys camping out underneath watching some basketball.
Yeah, we stopped to watch the Grangeville girls play because one of our teammates' moms is the coach for the varsity. So we wanted to show some support there. It was really good to watch some of those young girls play, and we've seen them play during summer league. So
I also watched the Lapway guys play, and there's that one guy who's super good. He has like D1 offers.
Case Why Not is
Yeah.
who you're talking about. But since you watched the Lapway boys play, I have to ask, how do we get that kind of a crowd for your team?
That's a great question.
Honestly, I don't know.
We had a great turnout for our Carroll game, so
Do we just need Lapway to play before you? Is that what we need?
maybe.
Keep them in the gym. I'm going to jump out first and say this right away. How does it feel to be national ranked as high as you guys are at this point in the season?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome. We've worked really hard in practices and everything. Nothing is like been given to us, obviously, and we've props to our coaches. We've had a really tough non-conference schedule, and we haven't really backed down to anybody, and it's just been fun getting to play high level competition and the player league too. Our conference is getting better every single year. Playing ELU and SOU and OIT, all those teams are really tough. So
yeah, there's several teams in your conference this year that are ranked, and so far you've been able to get wins against all of them. Obviously, the big win against Carroll back in December, but I want to bring up the depth with your team. It's something that always impresses me that every time I see the box score after a game, it seems like 2 or 3 different girls are really stepping up. Now there's some normal names. Obviously, both of you are up there. Normally, I mean, Callie, I know you struggled there for a little, but you're both up there as far as points per game. But there's so many different other girls that stand out every other game.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. We do have a lot of experience, and we have our freshmen too who are learning every single game. We have experience with Addie, and she does a great job coming in and picking up the tempo with everybody.
And I think also the freshmen that coach brought in, they're all just super good, and they've adapted really well to how we play in our fast style of play. So yeah.
Robert's over there reading something.
I'm reading. I'm reading a little bit and looking at all the guys you were talking about bringing in the youth. You've got Bird in from Spokane, also Wilson, and what has Coach Orr done with these girls to keep the depth and coming off the bench with these? Is there something different that he's doing for these girls that are new to the team?
I don't really think so. He did the same thing with our freshman last year. I mean, our freshman last year got hurt a couple times. She was hurt at the beginning of the season. I think he's just doing a good job getting them in and letting them getting playing time and
getting the good recruits.
Yeah, and they're getting good minutes and making the most of their minutes too. So
we've been talking about the depth, but Ellie, you especially over about the last month or so, the last 9 games, double figures in 8 of the last 9 games, had 20 points against Warner Pacific on Friday. What has been that big standout moment for you this year that has kind of helped you elevate your game?
Honestly, I'd probably say my teammates and our fast breaking. Probably more than half of my points come from me just running up the court and then finding me in transition. And so that's been a big part of that.
I think the biggest thing that I said, the couple games that I've seen, is the gameplay and the game setup from Coach Orr. It seems like every play is somebody different, getting somebody involved to keeping the teams off, sitting on one player all the time, scouting on one player. Is that kind of the mindset that what Coach Orr is doing with this ball club?
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job of calling plays for everybody. Our offenses kind of work out that way, that anybody and everybody can score. We really like to try to get it inside to Sarah, and then we can make plays off of Sarah, or Sarah can take it in. But really, with our plays, anybody at any time can score, and any night it could be any one of us who steps up.
And you saying that you've got Sarah, a senior, Hannah Broyles is a senior, and also, excuse me, Addie also being a senior. A lot of youth. I'm excited to see how far we can stretch this into the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. I'm excited to see Peyton and Lindsay and all of them, like how much they grow from this year to next year. It's not easy coming in as a freshman, so I'm excited to see what they do next year too.
Now, we talked a little bit before, Callie, and I know this. You are from the Puyallup area. Were you able to get back and watch any of your old high school stuff over the break or do anything like that?
Unfortunately, I didn't. Since we only get like a certain amount of days off, I chose to spend them with my family. And I almost did go to one of their games, but I was like, my coach isn't coaching there anymore, so I don't really know who the coach is anymore. I don't really know any of the girls. So I was like, oh, I could just watch from afar and see how they're doing on like Twitter and everything.
Now, Ellie, the same for you. You played your ball up at Northwest Christian. So what's it like to have played up there?
It was pretty cool. I switched coaches a lot. My senior year, or actually my junior year, a new coach came in, and I've known him along the years because it's a pretty small school. So he's still there, and they didn't have any games while I was there, but I went over and practiced with them and shot around a little bit, and he introduced me to all like the freshmen and sophomores who didn't know me. So that was pretty fun.
So being able to do that, is that something that you're interested in helping the youth and kind of coaching in that way, or is that just was kind of a cool moment for you?
I honestly don't know. I think coaching would be really fun. I coached soccer earlier this year, but I definitely want to coach basketball if I did coach, but I haven't put much thought into it.
Yeah. So looking forward, we're back at home this weekend. You get Oregon Tech on Friday, and then a good ranked matchup against Southern Oregon on Saturday. I think I asked this to whoever we ever have on, especially basketball or volleyball. How tough is it to every single weekend having to prep for two different opponents?
I think it's pretty tough.
Especially with these two teams, they are completely different with how they play their defenses, and they have their offenses are completely different, and they're both very well coached and run their plays to a T. So it is difficult because we have to learn their plays, two sets of plays, and sometimes we focus on the team we play first. Yeah. We try to do both, but obviously you're going to focus on the team you play first, and then it's a little quick but turn around to the next day where we do film and we watch all of that maybe 6 hours before we actually play them
Saturday morning.
So it can be a lot, but that's what makes it fun. It's a challenge, and it's just fun to see.
Yeah, big weekend this weekend at the P1FCU Activity Center. You guys take on Oregon Tech on Friday, 5:00 tip time, that one. And then you take on number 23, Southern Oregon. Any big players that we should be watching out for either one of those two teams that you've scouted out so far?
I know there's a girl on OIT.
I think her last name's Sprague. She's a really good shooter and scorer, very good offensive player. And then obviously with SOU, it's Cammie Walk, big presence on the inside. And honestly, SOU's whole defense is a game changer. They provide a lot of pressure, which is not something that we see with a lot of teams, denying passing lanes. A lot of teams we see what we call pack.
Sit in the pack line.
So,
has it been different for you guys over the last few weeks with the winter break going on and not having to balance basketball and school? And is that going to change here in a week or so when we all go back?
Yeah, it's going to change with a lot of us with having to go back to 6 a.m. practices. That's probably going to be the biggest change for everybody. Having to wake up early again. We've been practicing at 8:30 every day, so that's a 2.5 hour difference.
Yeah. And balancing homework and stuff, starting up school again.
Mm-hmm. Is the schedule rough for you guys this semester? Or? You guys take it easy on yourselves as you're still going through basketball.
It's pretty rough for me. I'm taking 2 hard science classes and then a couple like filler ones. But
I'm taking 18 credits, so full load.
18 credits and working for Alicia?
Yeah. Well, one of them's an internship class, so it is like a
Okay.
job mixed, like it is mixed in. But I'm
Gotcha.
So tell everybody. I know, Callie. I think we've talked about it, but what are both of your majors?
I am exercise science.
and I'm business informatics.
And I know, Callie, we had you on at the beginning of the year. This is what happens when you work for Alicia. And I asked for somebody on the basketball team, and they're like, I'll just get Callie because I see her all the time. But how is it still working for Alicia? I know last time we talked that you were kind of getting swayed to go in her career route. Is it still going that way, or how are things going?
Yeah, it is still going that way. I've talked to her about a couple, maybe being like I think it's a GA for her. Coming my 5th year to be a GA for her.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's watching, we say hi and we love you.
Hey, Alicia.
But yeah, it's been so much fun. I haven't really worked for her over break. I thought I was going to, but with basketball, I was just like, I'm gonna take the extra hours off. But I still do work with her, and she's just so much fun to work with.
Listen, I could have put you to work at a Vista tournament. Guys, change you out with the girls that were sitting next to me, and we could have had you playing all kinds of stuff.
We should have. We weren't doing anything.
Well, now you know for next year that
Yeah.
that is needed. Still sad that, I mean, obviously it makes sense that when we have the Golden Throne that you guys are off playing on the road, but you could have helped Robert for sure. And you guys did see Lapway Boys play, so you kind of saw what we go through for the Golden Throne. But again, the Golden Throne is just so much louder because you have the student sections going out. So the one thing I'm sad about for the Warrior basketball teams is they are always on the road and they don't get to experience how insane that place gets.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about it, and we've seen pictures and stuff, and being told that you better lock your lockers because the Golden Thrones, they're having the game here. And yeah, I've always wanted to see it because I've seen pictures, and it gym is packed, and it sounds like such a fun experience for those girls and guys who get to play in that. So
Yeah, it's a text only because you can't talk to the person next to you. Just
that's awesome.
very loud. Got anything else, Robert?
No, I think we got it.
I had a brain dead stare from you,
Exactly.
so I figured, but just I'll ask one more. Obviously, the expectations we try to win every game, but how far are we looking forward? Do we want to try to host this Cascade tournament? Maybe be able to host an NAIA opening round if things go well. Have you guys started looking towards that future of possibly being able to do that, or?
I mean, it's always a goal for us to want to host a tournament here, especially both of them. They're both big. I know when we talked about Carroll, we were like, oh, if we went against Carroll, we might have a chance of having opening rounds here. And so we've definitely talked about it, but I think right now we're just kind of taking it one game at a time and trying to get through conference. And so.
Well, you've got this weekend and next weekend back-to-back home matchups here at the P1FC Activity Center. Yeah, we said you guys had Oregon Tech on Friday and then Southern Oregon. Then you will welcome in, I love this saying this one, the Gooey Ducks will be back in on Friday the 20th. Northwestern will be in on Saturday, and then you guys hit the road for some hard competition against the Yotes and then back with Eastern Oregon. Are you looking forward to road trip?
Not really.
Road trips they're interesting. We share with the men, so after our games we have to sit and watch, which is fun to support them. They're fun to watch, and they're a bunch of good guys too, easy to talk with. But sometimes after your games, you kind of just want to get on the road and go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the case this year with that, so
it's fun.
It is fun to sit there and support them. And the last game we watched, the Multnomah one, a lot of us got into it. Even our coaches got into it. Coach Orr was getting into it over there. He's chirping a little bit. So
gotta get them back on the winning track. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They struggled there for a little bit, but ladies, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit. It's been a fantastic season so far, and best success the rest of the way through the season.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, that's Callie Stevens and Ellie Sanders joining us live. Thank you, ladies. Did this team? I am so excited. We've got 3 seniors on this team, but the youth of this ball club is phenomenal, and what they've got there. Sophomores and juniors, and even the incoming freshmen. I'm excited to see what Coach Orr does with this team.
We knew this was going to be a really good team after last season making such a great run, and they did, they have those 2 stupid COVID forfeits that we talked about all year long, but they were a very young group then, so we knew they were going to be great this year, and they have not disappointed by any means. Their one loss was against one of the best teams in the country in the opening game of the season, and they kept that game pretty close. And even now, like you said, only 3 seniors on this team, so a lot of this team will be back next year. Those freshmen that we're already seeing have some impact on the team will can continue to get better. The women's team for LC right now is top notch. We hope that it continues to go that way. I know a lot of the focus, because it is a baseball town, will be on the baseball team, but this women's team is something that I do wish could get the audiences that we saw at the Avista tournament, because they put on a show for sure.
Yeah, I know they're promoting this Friday, and I think next or the first week in February, they're promoting elementary schools to come in with their kids and fill the activity center. So,
a lot of fun.
If you get a chance to get out and watch these girls, you need to come and watch them. And I know they were talking about Camden Barger, the redshirt freshman from Grangeville. She's a heck of a shooter. We've seen her at a Vista tournament. We know what she's capable of doing. It'd be exciting to see what she can do.
No, absolutely. All right. We're talking about the great show that the LC women have been putting on. Let's talk about the no-show that happened last night in the college football championship game, where Georgia defeated TCU 65-7. And it was a 10-7 game. And then Georgia went nuts. I was up at Lewis and Moscow. I was up at the University of Idaho covering those games. So luckily, I didn't have to watch any of this garbage. Tell me what the heck happened.
I watched a little bit there in the first quarter, ended up doing some stuff, and then catching the midway through the third and fourth quarter. But it was just hard to watch. But Georgia did cover the spread. I thought the spread was set a little too high at 13, but they.
Well, I would hope when you win by 58 that you cover a spread.
I just thought it was funny because we talked about it. I had a couple of teacher friends that I was working with thought that the spread was a little too far, but I went back today and I looked to see what the over under was, and the over under on the game was 61.5. So, I mean, they were pretty darn close with that one, but hats off to Georgia, big back-to-back national championship. But, TCU come out very first penalty, very first play after the kickoff. So they're back first and 15, 3 and out. But then you get into Stetson Bennett and what this kid has done for Georgia to be a walk-on kid with no scholarship, come on and then get a scholarship to what he's doing now is phenomenal. And he started things off. He gets a 21-yard scamper into the end zone for a touchdown to put the Bulldogs on the board, and another rough outing, but for TCU. But he put up some big numbers, and so did this whole Georgia Bulldog team. Georgia is just about a heck of a lot more physical on that defensive line, and held Dugan in a spot and all that. Georgia scores double digits all 4 quarters, scoring 17, 21, 14, and 13. But I think the big thing too is the Bulldogs balanced out their run game. They had 8 different players run the ball for 254 yards. It was just nuts to see what they could do. Now, don't take anything away from what TCU did during the season. They played some big name teams in their season. You looked at their weakest opponent in their whole schedule was Tarleton, but they played quite well and to come away with it. Max ended up, the Heisman runner-up. He ended up going 14 of 22 for 152 yards. Big killer, 2 big interceptions in that one. And then going negative 38 yards rushing. But he also scores TCU's lone touchdown. But for me, Bennett, he was the player of the game. 18 to 25, 304 yards, 6 touchdowns combined, 4 in the air, and 2 on the ground with his feet. And just for what Georgia did to go back to back, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And for those out there, obviously I've said many times I hate the bowl season anymore because there's too many bowls and teams don't care and players transfer out or they hold out to get ready for the draft. And so a lot of the players just don't care either. So I've just lost all interest. It's not the case for these playoffs because these are the top teams going at it. And for anybody out there after this game saying, well, see, this is why TCU didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. Well, TCU beat Michigan. And let's not forget, Georgia had to make a great fourth quarter comeback and survive a game-winning field goal attempt against Ohio State, or they would not have been in this game at all. So I don't really think Georgia was this much better than TCU. I just think maybe the scale of the game was a bit too much for TCU. Maybe TCU just had a fantastic game plan against Michigan because you have the extra weeks to prepare. And we all thought the Bulldogs were the better team. Just, I don't think if they play this game 10 times, we ever see anything like that again. It just, the wheels fell off and it never got righted at all for TCU at all. And congratulations to Georgia, like you said, very deserving back-to-back national champions. South Dakota State ended up winning the FCS championship on Sunday. They win that one 45-21. And again, you do win the bowl picks. So congratulations there. And you win by 10 picks because I said it was worth 5 points. So
I only did one. I didn't want to blow you out of the water that much.
You blew me out enough, but I'm glad it's over. And we can move on. The College Football Hall of Fame announced their class of 2023. I'm not going to list the 8,000 people that got thrown into this, but just give me 2 or 3 names real quick that you think are really notable.
Everybody's focusing on Reggie Bush and Tim Tebow, but there was a couple other names that really stood out for me. Brian Westbrook, probably the biggest name for me. Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney was huge in Indianapolis for a lot of years.
But that doesn't matter here.
But I think right. But I think, what he did in Syracuse also, and probably the other couple, Luke Kuechly and also Jeremy Maclin.
I'm glad LaMichael James got in there for Oregon. He was fantastic as a Duck. It kind of just flamed out in the pros, but very cool that he still gets notified. Obviously, those big name people that you were talking about that made it big in the pros too are always interesting to see. But you always have to remember that there are players out there that were fantastic as college players and just did not make it in the NFL, and they deserve recognition as well. Let's get into some high school sports. We haven't talked about it much recently because the Vista tournament took over everything last week, and we really focused in on that and had Zach Eastman and Mike Tatko on, and didn't really get to focus in on some of the other teams in the area, though our biases are shown just in the colors of this show. I'm a Bengal, you're a Bantam. That's where we went to school. That's who we work for now, or who we cover now. And we don't shy away from that. So our main coverage will be those 2 teams. And let's start with that, with the Bengals, where the boys continue to be pretty good throughout this season. They're 9-2 now. Their only 2 losses are against Pullman, who might be the best 2A Washington school in the state, and Lapwai, who might be just the best basketball team in the state of Idaho. So Lewison's really good. That defense is ridiculous. So much so that they beat Post Falls last week, 31-18. Post Falls had 3 points at halftime. 3.
Yeah. Now
the offense wasn't going for Lewison, but they are a defensive set team, and it worked well for them against Moscow as well. They win that one 50-33. Really shut down a Moscow team who's been averaging about 60 points a game over the last month or so. They'll take on Post Falls on Thursday at home. And then a week from today, again, which messes up our schedule, they will be hosting Coeur d'Alene. That game's going to be really good. So look out for that. On the girls' side, they've been up and down all year, more down than up. But again, you lose 16 years and your top scoring junior who did not come back and play this year. It was going to be a rough season. They're 5-9 after losing to Post Falls, one of the better teams in the state of Idaho, 76-52. Then they do beat Moscow 57-42 to get their 5th win of the year. They'll take on Post Falls as well on Thursday. They have a standalone game on Saturday, 11:30 a.m. at LHS against Timberlake. And then they will also be against Coeur d'Alene on Tuesday.
Yeah, for the Clarkston teams, I'm going to start with the girls. Girls just wrapped up their second game since Avista. They did play last week against North Central and come away with a loss. That one, Kendall Wallace does not play in that one. She had a concussion. I learned of that on just right after the show last Tuesday that she was not going to be able to play. But they were outscored in the fourth quarter, 22-8. But in that one, Samara Pawaki, who is a transfer in, she had 18 points, a big night for her. Just got a text a minute ago. League play started. It was not reported right. North Central is not in our league for basketball. They are for football, but not for basketball. But they just wrapped up against the West Valley girls 64-35. Had to look at my note there. Don't have any stats of who did what in that one, but again, league play starting. We do host Rogers on Friday, and then another one, the big one, is taking on Pullman next Tuesday at Kramer Gym. That is going to be a 7:00 start time for the girls. Because of Title IX stuff, we have to flip the schedule and let them have the late game. And
we need to do that at LC. The women need to have the main event sometimes.
Yeah,
especially the way they've been playing.
Also, no action for the boys this past week. So tonight is their first action. Just got a message from Pete Williams a couple minutes ago. With 5:18 left to go in the second quarter, West Valley leads Clarkston 23-18, down 5 early in the fifth or in the second quarter. But again, playing that one tonight, and then we do host Rogers. That is a 7:00 tip time on Friday for them, and then playing probably the best team in our league this Tuesday, as we'll cover Pullman and take on the Greyhounds on Tuesday. They will tip at 5:30 in that one.
Look around the area for some of the other notable things going on. First, you look at Monday, where the Lapwai girls, who continue to be very strong this year, outscored Logos 27-2 in the first quarter on a easy route to a 74-19 win. I'll throw swimming in here because that also happened on Monday. The Pullman boys have been absolutely phenomenal. Not a lot of swimming going on right now. I know Washington does their boys in the winter, and they dominated a 5-team meet on Monday. And then as you look at Saturday, Dave Clute hit a clutch 3 to send the Kamiah Potlatch game into overtime, where Kamiah was able to get the win 47-41. The Lapwai boys made it 47 wins in a row with the 94-19 win over Troy on Saturday. That's the longest win in the entire nation right now. That team is just insane. Colfax improved to 11-1 on the boys' side with a 2-point win over Northwest Christian. So I'm glad that our guest isn't here right now. Alexander probably not the happiest over that news. And Colfax also got a win against Northwest Christian, improving to 13-0 behind 18 points and 14 rebounds by Bryn McGoy. A lot of wrestling going on this weekend too.
Tons of wrestling this past weekend. They had the Clearwater Valley the tournament in Oregon and all that, where it seemed like everybody was there. Parker Olson pinned all 4 of his opponents. This dude is unbelievable. If you get to watch, go back on the Facebook page and watch him wrestle. Some of the stuff, unbelievable. There was 3 girls that had top 10 finishes at the Raleigh Lane Invite in Nampa. Grangeville's Cadence Beck went 6-0. Also, Skyla Zimmerman went 5-0, and Potlatch's Haley McNeil 6-1. All wins by pin to take third in that one. Bodie Thieveridge comes away with a big one in unbeaten matches, 4 matches in the 138-pound weight class at the Blackhawk Invitational in Cheney, along with Pullman's Cotton Shears. I always love that name. Cotton Shears won the 285-pound weight class in that one. Lewiston finished 10th out of 56 teams at the Gut Check in Kent, Washington. Hoyt Havas best finished second at the 120-pound weight class. Tomorrow, both gyms, fill the gyms, Kramer Gym, Lewiston High School. Also, Lewiston will be hosting Moscow in the dual, JV at 5:30, varsity at 6:30. Clarkston will be hosting in Rogers. I'll be working that one, JV at 6, varsity at 7. I know Lewiston has got a couple of tournaments they're looking at for the weekend. But as far as Clarkston, talked with Coach Corey Thieveridge, they are taking the weekend off to try to get healthy as league play starts tomorrow. Got a couple of injuries, so they're dealing with that.
There you go. Let's move on to LC. As again, we had just been talking about it with Ellie and Callie, but the women are 14-1 on the year, 9-0 in conference. They've won 14 games in a row. They defeated Warner Pacific 70-52. Ellie Sander had 20 points, Maddie Holm with 16 rebounds, and then a 69-46 win against Multnomah, where Callie Stevens had 17 points and Ellie Sander had 15, and Maddie Holm ended up with 12 points and 13 rebounds in that game. For the men, they are continuing to struggle just a bit. They're 6-9 overall, 3-6 in league, as they've now lost their last 4 games. They lost to Warner Pacific 71-56, but Davion Brown had 16 points. And then a loss to Multnomah 71-66. But John Lustig, local boy with a double-double, 17 points and 10 rebounds. As we have said before, a couple of games this weekend at home. Friday against Oregon Tech, Saturday against Southern Oregon. Track and field back in action. Huh?
Track and field.
They're here.
Love that track and field.
Spokane Indoor Challenge on Friday and Saturday. So we'll have all of those results on the Monday show. And then the baseball schedule has been released. And I'm very disappointed. I'm happy that I get to go cover a couple LC basketball games for Brian Danner. I'm happy that I get that opportunity. But I wish he would have picked basketball and sent me for the baseball trip. Because baseball gets to go to Florida to start their year, as they'll be part of the East-West Challenge, and it's going to be a challenge for the Warriors, who are ranked second in the preseason poll, but they're going to play 4 teams in 3 days. 3 of those teams are in the top 10, and the other team's a top 25 team. And I'm trying to remember. I meant to look this up at some point. 3 of these teams were in the tournament last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
LSU, Shreveport, St. Thomas, and Southeastern, right?
Yep.
I don't think Kaiser was, but
no,
my memory is horrible. But they opened the season against number 4 LSU Shreveport, who had a great showing. I think they finished 3rd in the NAIA World Series last year. That'll be on February 2nd. And then on February 3rd, they take on St. Thomas, and then the number 1 team in the nation, the team that won the NAIA World Series, the team that beat LC 2 out of 3 times here in that World Series, Southeastern. They take on both of those teams in the same day before taking on Kaiser on February 4th. They also play one other Florida team while they're in the area before hosting their first set against British Columbia, a team that pushed them to the brink in the opening round. That'll be February 17th through the 19th. 4-game set. Those will be the first games over there at Harris Field. So we're a few weeks away from the baseball season starting. And I'm so happy that LC is pushing themselves, playing some of those Eastern teams early on. It's not going to tell us everything about this team because there's a lot of changes going on with all of these teams. And going out there playing this hard a competition to start the year, it's very fun to see. But just because you win or lose against one of these teams doesn't mean that you're going to be better come May.
Yeah, 100%. But I love the idea is they're getting out there and involved this quick, this early. Let's get the big teams now so we know what we're
Mhm.
expecting, know what we've got to do, what do we got to do to go in and handle the CCC, and what we can expect with this. LC doesn't get a free bid in. They've
Nope.
got to play to get in now, and it's going to be a big thing for this ball club to make sure that they are ready to go.
Yeah, we're still get a lot of postseason baseball here, whether they're
Mhm.
in or not. Most likely, they will host the Cascade Conference tournament because other than British Columbia, that conference still is not that great. They do get the automatic bid and the hosting duties to the opening round. But then, as we saw last year, you got to win through that double elimination tournament. And last year, they got pushed to the brink where they were one loss away from getting knocked out. Were able to hold off and beat British Columbia and then into the World Series. I've said it multiple times. I'd be very curious to see how this Valley reacts to a World Series that LC is not a part of, if they still show up like they have over the years or not. But I also would like to not ever have that happen because then LC just continues to qualify. I'm very happy that they're in that position where they have to qualify now, but it would be interesting if they don't.
Yeah. It will be nice to see, we get to see the same teams over, and that's the one thing that was kind of a plus for me is watching some of these opening rounds. A lot of these teams were putting their games on feeds that you could watch them and be able to see, okay, what can we expect for those teams that are coming in for one of our biggest weekends, and you become a fan of baseball. You look at these teams and you scout these teams. What could our LC team do against them? And that's what I loved going in with this opening round thing last year.
For sure. Let's look at the scoreboard real quick. Go through the women's college basketball top 25 games. Both of them are in the books. But number 17, Michigan defeated Purdue 80-59. Texas got a little bit of an upset. Record-wise, they're pretty close with number 23, Kansas. The Longhorns win that one 72-59. On the men's side, there's a lot going on tonight. As Robert had said at the beginning of the show, number 11, Kansas State was taking on Oklahoma State, and the Wildcats get the win there 65-57. Michigan State gets a little bit of an upset against Wisconsin, who was 18th in the country, 69-65. Number 14, Iowa State dominated Texas Tech, 84-40. Going on right now, it's a good one. Oklahoma at number 2, Kansas, and Oklahoma about halfway through the second half is leading that one 56-53. Number 5, Tennessee is all over Vanderbilt, 64-54 right now with about 6 minutes to go. Number 13, Virginia is up on North Carolina, 49-42. That one, about 10 minutes to go there. And number 21, Auburn, on the road against Ole Miss with a 12-point lead, 57-45, halfway through the second half as well. And starting in about 20 minutes, number 23, San Diego State, will host Nevada if you want some late-night college basketball. That'll be on the CBS Sports Network, if you can find that wherever that's at. Hockey-wise, you know what happens now, sir?
Uh-oh.
Release the Kraken!
The Kraken get the win tonight. They defeat the Buffalo Sabres 4-3. They're 24-12-4 on the Kraken. Not too shabby. Devils get the big win against the Hurricanes. Those two teams are very good this year. They win that one 5-3. Red Wings over the Jets 7-5. So the Jets can't even win hockey games. But the football Jets did score one more point than this week. Just saying. Rangers beat the Wild 4-3 in a shootout. Penguins over the Canucks 5-4. Lightning over the Blue Jackets 6-3. Stars over the Islanders 2-1. Blues get the win over the Flames 4-3. And 2 games still going on right now. Going into the third period, Sharks and Coyotes tied at 2. And just starting the second period, the Panthers over the Avalanche 3-1. Before we get into the NBA stuff, I just have to say, I still haven't watched a ton of hockey as much as I would like to. Again, making the bad decision of deciding to be a Kraken fan and then being blacked out on my ESPN Plus. Want me to watch on Root, and I can't watch Root. So it messes everything up. Was bad. But I have to say, this as a non, just as a casual hockey fan, I think the scoring is way up this year than what we have seen.
Yeah, I have not seen any of these, so it'll be interesting happening. Real quick, I did just get a score
Yep.
update from West Valley. It is halftime in the boys matchup. West Valley leads 30-23. 18 of the 30 points West Valley has put up have come via the three-pointer.
Ooh. So guard deep.
Yes.
That's for sure. In the NBA, the 76ers dominated the Pistons 147-116. The Heat sneak a win out against the Thunder 112-111. Raptors take out the Hornets 132-120. And going on right now, Jazz over the Cavaliers 78-65. That's in the third quarter. Suns are beating the Warriors 39-31. That one's in the second. Just starting the second quarter, the Magic are over the Trailblazers 35-20. And just about to tip off, the Mavericks are taking on the Clippers. If you are interested in any of that stuff when we get off the air here in about 20 minutes. We talked about Carlos Correa for a little bit, and I want to bring him up partially because I realized that we took out the Mike Tatko interview and I did not reslate that 15-minute segment. So that is a complete.
If you were to look up all-time bonehead plays
on me as I completely messed this up. So we got a little bit of time to fill here. But Carlos Correa was going to be a San Francisco Giant until he wasn't. And then he was going to be a New York Met until he wasn't. And now he's going to be going back to the Minnesota Twins until he's not. Maybe. What do you think?
I don't know. Everything just keeps up and down. I want to know, for me, and a hip and all that, but what is so intriguing? What is on these charts that these doctors are seeing from these teams that are, really causing hesitancy with both of these ball clubs?
Well, there's something going on with his knee, right? That is
right.
completely scaring them off, especially because, it was a 13-year, $350 million deal he signed with he agreed to with the Giants. There was nothing signed. That didn't work. Then it was a 12-year, $315 million contract with the Mets. Again, the knee stuff just has them concerned for the length of these deals. And now the Twins, what is it, a 6-year deal that they're going with? And then I want to say it's a 6-year deal, but it can get extended for years after that. It's an interesting deal that has bits and pieces to it, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's got to be something crazy. But you look at that, and with him thinking, and you almost have to ask their camp now, you're not going to get a long-term deal if there's so much issue now. How do you set up, or where do you go in mentally, and you talk to your agent and say, okay, do we look for a 3-year deal? Do we look, because he's still fairly young, do we look for a 3-year deal to try to just get something done where you can play and prove to other teams, or do you stick to your guns and look for that long-term deal?
I just don't think he's going to get that long-term deal. It's just hilarious that we continue to get to this point where he's agreed to a deal and then he has to go through the physical. And then I just think the other 27 teams need to just quickly agree to a deal with his agent so they can look at his knee too.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity. I would just go, hey, I'll give you 50 years and $10 billion. Let me give you a physical real quick. Oh, nope, I don't like it. We're good. Never mind. I just wanted to see how bad your knee was.
Yeah.
Is this it? Is it going to be the Twins?
I think it's going to have to end up being there. I mean, that's where he's at. I mean, they know what he's capable of, but I know he wants the money, but it's just, there's something too underlining and scary to what that, what he is wanting and what he is going to get is going to be so almost too far apart.
Mm-hmm. All right. I want to play a little game with you since we still have a little bit of time.
Okay.
Will Leach for MLB.com did a fun little thing where he predicts the next 10 World Series championships.
Oh, dear
Okay.
Lord. Okay.
But before we get there, he does bring up the list of the last 10 World Series championships. Can you name me
Oh, dear Lord.
the last 10 World Series champions? You don't need to give me the year. And I believe there's only 8 different teams that have won a World Series in the last 10 years because 2 of them won it twice. Can you name me those 8 teams?
So you've got Houston.
Yep.
You've got New York.
New York who?
Yankees.
Nope.
They were
Yankees
they
last one in
10 years?
2009.
awesome. 1 year off.
No, not even close. 2013 to 2022.
Right.
You're
Okay,
4 years
so
off.
I'm
So-
4 years off. Jeez.
You said Houston,
Uh,
right? And you said
Houston. And I said New York. So Houston.
Okay.
Boston.
Boston won it in 2013 and 2018.
So that's now 4 of the 10 years, right? So now I'm looking at the others. LA
Dodgers won it in 2020. Yeah.
Atlanta.
Atlanta won 2021.
Mm-hmm.
What about that sneaky one in 2019 where the team came out through the wild card and surprised everybody?
Oh God, you're gonna put
Washington Nationals.
oh, that's Nationals. So yeah, that was just
And then
spitting-
also the Cubs, Royals, and Giants
Cubs
have
Royals.
won it in the last 10 years. So I haven't
the
looked.
Cubbies. Dang, how can I?
I
miss
have
that
not
one?
looked at these yet. Let's have some fun. This is his predictions over the next 10 years. Again, Will Leach from MLB.com. Ready?
Okay.
I'll just get your reaction. 2023, this year, Dodgers over the Blue Jays. Agree or disagree?
I can see the Dodgers making it back there. Yeah,
I don't see the Blue Jays.
don't see the Blue Jays though. No.
2024, the New York Mets over the Baltimore Orioles.
No.
Maybe not that soon. 2025, the San Francisco Giants over the New York Yankees.
I
First time
could
the
see that.
Yankees have made this list.
I could say that. Yeah, I could see that.
Yankees don't-
2025.
Yankees don't lose World Series, so I don't like it. 2026, sir. The Seattle
Wow.
Mariners over the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow. The Cardinals are going to get back that quick. That's close. I mean, there's youth, but Seattle likes to unload their youth for win now talent. So I'm gonna.
Would you take a World Series in the next 4 years?
I would love a World Series in the next 4 years.
2027, the Yankees over the Cubs. That would be a fun one.
I can see that. That would be a good one.
And he says Anthony Volpe is the World Series MVP, though it's the homer by recent free agent signee Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Wow.
He's saying Vlad Jr. goes to the Yankees in 2027.
Does he have a magic 8-ball that he was getting?
He has a crystal ball, is what he said he had. 2028. How about the Baltimore Orioles winning a World Series over the LA Dodgers?
Does Baltimore have that deep of a?
They have a lot. Their minor league system is deep, and Adley Rutschman, the catcher, who Denny Grubb has been touting all summer, and how good he was playing. He will still be very young.
I messaged Denny, and I not to change off. I had messaged Denny the other day as and I think you follow him, Baseballer. If you don't follow him on Facebook, they have some good stories and stats and funny ha-has. As they posted Billy Ripken's a baseball card.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
And it had the inappropriate word at the bottom. And and Denny sent me that there's like 12 to 14 or 15 different versions of that picture that are floating around, whether or
That's
not they
awesome.
whited it out, did they black it out? It was just funny.
That's awesome.
Billy Ripken, of all people.
Yeah. All right. So that's 2028. 2029. The Detroit Tigers over the Atlanta Braves. So he has not had a single team win twice in this run yet.
Not yet. I
But the
mean,
Tigers get a World Series.
Tigers make their way back. That would be interesting to see.
This is 6 years from now.
Yeah. So, I mean, by this time, who knows? Correa might be a Tiger.
He goes, so here's something fun. The Tigers, who are too motivated of a franchise with too desperate of a fan base to stay down for too long, announced the big free agent signing of Ronald Acuna Jr. before the 2029 season. That's how long he's currently signed with Atlanta. He has a Miguel Cabrera's first year in Detroit MVP type season. There you go. And then Acuna Jr. would pay the Braves, according to him. 2030. Let's not go to 30-30. Let's not go that far.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Angels over the Philadelphia Phillies. Team.
Is Bryce Harper still with
Bryce Harper and Trey Turner are still with the Phillies. Angels are still trotting out Mike Trout, but they do not have Ohtani anymore.
Oh, boy. That'd be interesting. That Philly might come away with a big win there.
2023, the Red Sox over the Brewers. And then 2032, the Guardians over the Reds. So he says over the next 10 years, no team will win 2 World Series.
Listen, I think the Guardians might shock you and might make it a little bit earlier than what he's saying, 2032. They could be in playoff contention again this next year and sitting pretty. So
pretty interesting. I saw that article when we were looking up Correa stuff and just had to bring it up.
How about I was going to say, are you shocked there was only really other 2 big stories that have come out of baseball this week? Trevor Story went under his surgery. Are you shocked with the move the Dodgers did with Mr. Bauer?
Not really. And I'm curious what's going to happen with him. Now, he has never been proven guilty from any of the stuff he did. And obviously he's going to get a job somewhere because we saw Deshaun Watson not only get a job, but get a huge raise. And he did stuff allegedly with far more people than Trevor Bauer. Now, if both are true, neither are great people. I will say that I enjoy Trevor Bauer more than I did Deshaun Watson just because he has I don't know if he still has it. I haven't watched it in a while, but he had a YouTube channel while he was with the Dodgers where he would show a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And he seemed like a nice enough guy. Now, that's not saying he is or not because I'd never met him in person. And if those allegations are true, then he's not a very good guy. But somebody's going to go and pick him up because the Dodgers still have to pay him all that money. And as long as you sign him for under a certain amount, then the Dodgers are basically paying him to play for your team.
Right.
And somebody's going to make that gamble that, the bad PR is good enough to have somebody who hasn't pitched in over a year, and it may or may not work out.
And so I don't want to get into the allegation or anything like that. I think LA did the right thing, get rid of him. I think the best thing for him, Trevor, if you want to do that, get out of a big market, find a smaller market, find something away. But somebody will pay him, as the Dodgers still owe him, I want to say close to $60 million or something like that. Crazy to think about with that. As we get ramped up, we're almost pitchers and catchers reporting here shortly. But
I'm so ready.
Bigger one too, and I had somebody ask me about it. I talked a little AFL the other day. We're down to 65 days, sir. AFL kicks off.
Hey, the AFL's YouTube channel has put out a bunch of videos of like the top 10 moments from different teams from last season and stuff. It's getting me ready. I still don't think the Hawks are going to be great, but I'm just ready to watch some AFL and just throw it at everyone's faces that they need to be watching it.
Yeah. We were talking rugby the other day, and between rugby and all that, and and for some odd reason, I have seen some cricket stuff come up, and I'm like,
Yeah, cricket's becoming
Fox-
more and more popular in the area. And
Fox needs to jump on it and get it back on TV. It was on TV at one point.
XFL is getting ready to start back up. The USFL is getting ready to have their second season, which, by the way, means that I have to pick a team and actually have to follow it. I said I would not until you reached year 2, and they are set to start year 2. So now I have to actually pay attention to it. But those are a bit away. NASCAR still's got about a month to go until we get into that. But golf started this weekend.
Golf did start this week. A little bit with that. I don't know this guy, and I don't understand how do you blow a six-stroke lead on a
You don't
final?
know Colin Morikawa?
No, I mean, I just don't know how. I was trying to phrase my words right. How do you blow a 6-stroke lead going into it? And people were talking.
Well,
he
maybe
was running
because
around it.
the guy catching you has 4 birdies and an eagle.
Yeah, a big thing. John Rahm ends up winning the TOC, shooting 27 under. Like you just said, he has shoots 6 under on the back 9 of this one. Unbelievable. Morikawa bogeys 14, 15, and 16. And Morikawa is the 9th player in PGA history to lose a 6-stroke lead going into the final round. Next tournament comes up this weekend. It's the Sony Open in Hawaii. Still didn't have a list of tee-offs. I looked at tee times early this morning. I did not see a list at 9 o'clock. They still had not posted that yet. So
Do we know if Damon is playing in that one?
I don't think Damon is playing in that one yet either. So
I can't get things to load. I think I found something that'll have tee times, but it's not loading just yet. But while I wait for that to attempt to load, I want to also throw a shout out to my bowling partner who did a great job of carrying me on Sunday, Tody Barden, with a 300 on request, by the way. I don't think Dwayne Buttermore is listening anymore, but he was watching the show earlier on. But as we were warming up, Dwayne is bowling on our pair, and he comes up to Tony and I, and he goes, you know what? One of you guys need to bowl a 300 because I have not seen one yet this year. I mean, there's been 300s in our league, but he's not been around to watch them. And Tony's bowled a 300 already this year. But, Dwayne's like, I just have not seen it in person. So what does Tony do? He bowls a 300 his first game.
Very first game.
Goes out and he crushed all 12. Well, I'll say 10 of 12 were perfect shots. A couple of them, little mixers in there, but none of them were bad by any means. And congratulations to Tony. I carried him for 15 weeks. He's carried me the last 2. That's what teammates do. And hopefully we can push into our bowling playoffs and not I'm the Kirk Cousins of our bowling league, where I make the playoffs and then just completely flame out.
I do not see Joel in any of the tee times. Tee times are posted on golfchannel.com if you'd like to look at that. But yeah,
I was looking at NBC Sports and same, he's not in that list. So no Joel Damon just yet, but we will.
PBA starts next week, right? I want to say
they're doing
PBA starts
a non-televised thing right now. I've been watching Darren Tang talk about his tournament going on, and I know it's like bowl.com now does it, right? Not Flow TV. Bowling or whatever the other thing was that was horrible.
Yeah, Flow Bowl
where it was way too expensive. So I'm hoping that it's cheaper to get into, because I like watching all the qualifying and have that in the background while I'm working on stuff. So I'm ready for that. One last reminder, if you are just tuning in for the end of our show, we've said it multiple times, but it just helps to say it multiple times. Robert Hagan knows that as a teacher. You just have to keep throwing it out there. He also knows that from our bowling league, where we have told people for 2 months that we're not bowling on Christmas and we're pushing the regular season back a week for us. And I had 7 people ask me if last week was our last week or not. It's just what happens. But Monday night next week will be our show. We do our best to be here on Tuesdays, but both of us have obligations with high school basketball next Tuesday, so we will not be able to do that. So we'll be back here on Monday night, do live reactions a bit with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys game. We'll recap all of the rest of the super wild card round, talk all about the high school stuff. We'll recap what LC did with their basketball at track and field in action this past weekend. We'll see if my first night working under Alicia goes well or not, or if she already fires me. We'll see how that goes. And so much more. It's going to be a fun show on a Monday night. But for now, that will do it for episode whatever this is, 116. We've done a lot of these. But that'll do it for the R&R Sports Report. That's Robert. I'm Randy. We will be back on Monday night. But until then,
Monday.
we are